Watch out for the promises and anything that prevents you from having contact with your kid. We're going to talk about jail. We're going to talk about prison. We're going to talk about all of these things because you have a very unique perspective. So why don't you give some story, introduce people to who you are and how you came to be talking about this?
Definitely. So my name is Rocky Singh Kandola. I'm 35 years old. I currently live in Los Angeles. I was born in New York City. My parents are first generation directly from India. So jumping right into what you're speaking about, quote unquote, jail and prisons and institutions for me started at a very young age. Starting from 11 years old, I started going to institutions and boot camps or Gulag schools, they call them, all across the world from Mexico to Canada, places that are now shut down from, child abuse, rape, torture, and all kind of stuff like that, that are actually still in operation. So from a young age, 11 to about 17, 18, that was my life. A lot of it was in survival mode, flight or flight mode.
Wait a minute, hold it. You got to slow this down a little bit. A gulag school?
That's like a name for them, like what they kind of call them. The actual name for the ones I went to were called the Worldwide Association of Specialty Programs. We're basically...
That sounds pretty, positive. The Worldwide Association of Specialty Programs.
Exactly. And they work very hard to make them sound and look, pretty positive. And, a lot of them have been uncovered recently with Paris Hilton doing a big documentary called This is Paris, where she went to one of those schools as well in the U.S. And, they're anything could be further from the truth. They're very abusive and very manipulative. Both the parents that are looking to just, help their child out, not sure where to turn, feeling overwhelmed, and obviously as well as the children who go through them.
So I'm going to ask a couple of questions about this, Rocky, if you don't mind, because what would prompt a parent to go looking for a specialty school?
From a personal stance, my father was just starting a practice, in Mississippi, new to the country as well. And, it was from what they're used to in India, they're used to very mindful kids that listen and study and go home and respect their elders. And I was a bit of a wilder child. I was very outspoken, very talkative, very, very hyper. I always wanted to be out and about. And they just didn't know how to deal with me. And then my two twin brothers and sisters, I was kind of the black sheep that they couldn't control, couldn't handle. So I think it was kind of an innocent thing. You just started looking in the back of newspaper ads and finally saw one that said, hey, do you want to reclaim your child and bring love back into your family? And him being, a high functioning doctor and wanting to handle the issue quickly, he just kind of called. I'm not really sure how much research he did, but he just went from there and feeling overwhelmed and signed me up and off I went.
So you went into a program that from your dad's point of view was to help reclaim you into the family with love.
Exactly.
What happened?
So I went to the same program twice, actually. The first time I was 11 or 12. The second time I was about 17. The second time I was actually basically kidnapped out of my bed with my ankles cuffed and my hands cuffed and escorted by these two guys that were so tall that I had to turn off my fan in the bedroom in order for them to stand over me. The first time I was told that I was going to be going into a nice summer camp. I was spending some time there and they were going to help me. And there was jet skis and pools and this and that. And my mother actually flew with me to San Diego and dropped me off there. And we drove down to Ensenada. And as soon as we got there, it was this big 4 walls, a red building. And you get in and everything seems okay enough. But as soon as you get to the point where you leave your mother and you go to the next door, everything changes. The hallways get dirty. The lights get dark. They start screaming at you and pushing you, ripping your clothes off, cutting your hair, cursing at you and telling you, we don't know how long you're going to be here. We're going to be here for a very long time. So get used to it and just get something. The second you walk past those doors, you're in shock. You sleep on the hallway for 10 days. You're woken up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. to do a head count in the rain. There's no communication with the outside world, nor with your peers inside. Everything's very strict and regimented and kind of built around a brainwashing type of mentality, as well as, obviously physically, sexually, and mentally abusive staff.
Wow. How long were you in that environment, being totally cut off from your family?
The first time I was there for 7 months, and the second time at 17, I was there for roughly the same time.
So for 7 months, your parents had no contact with you?
Exactly. We were allowed to write letters once a week and receive letters from our parents only. However, they were, severely redacted. If we said anything negative or manipulative as they seemed, about the program or what was happening, they would give it back to us and tell us to rewrite it. Phone calls could be earned at a certain time and stage, and I never got to that level because, it's a business, it's a for-profit business. If the children are getting out too fast, they're not going to make any money. So the only way to get out was either to graduate the program, which they don't tell you how long it takes, to be pulled out by our parents, or to wait until you're 18. And then at 18, you get put on the border of the U.S. and Mexico with $50 and a bus ticket.
What?
That was we were taught that since day one, and that's the program.
Okay. So the good news is you said these things were shut down.
Well, no, there's many of them still in existence. The program in particular I went to, WWASP, has the ownership. A lot of them still work in the industry, but they've changed names and reopened different areas. In fact, I had the chance to visit the one that I went to as a kid in Mexico and actually paid a guard to walk through. I made a YouTube video about like walking through, and so many of the brothers and sisters I went there with like, wow, man, thank you. Like my nightmares are so much worse. I'm so glad it's closed. However, as we're talking now, I've learned that there's another one open about an hour and a half away from that school. So they're continuously popping up again and again.
Okay, so this is a case of parents beware. Watch out for the promises and anything that